Howdy, folks, and welcome to the Daily Coin. My name is Rory, and today is Tuesday, November the 8th, 2016, otherwise known as Election Day in the USA. And I have the great honor and very distinct pleasure of welcoming back to the show a gentleman who was one of the very first people that I ever interviewed, and I've interviewed many times since. And he is an author, he's a scholar, he lives in Beijing. You know him, you love him, Mr. Jeff J. Brown. His latest book, China Rising, Capitalist Roads, Socialist Destinations, can be found on Amazon, and there is a link below. So thank you all for being here.
On the eve of the big night in the United States tonight. So should be an interesting week for gold and silver.
It's already interesting. We have voting machine glitches in at least three states, and something's going on with Trump filing some kind of suit in Vegas that just got thrown out by the judge. He said, I'm not even going to consider it. And so we've got, all of the pieces are falling into place just as, just as we kind of figured that they would. I mean, you don't have information that comes out 2 weeks in advance saying that the voting machines are rigged and that they're going to be rigged, and all the drops that WikiLeaks has done over the past month, really. I mean, that have just been absolutely unbelievable information coming out. So, I mean, it's playing out exactly the way that I kind of figured that it would. Lots of chaos and stupidity and just the entrails of a dying empire.
Yeah, well, if it actually in Oklahoma, I had a choice between Trump, Clinton, and the Libertarian candidate. I can't remember his name.
Gary Johnson.
Yeah, and I voted for Trump. Just because I at least he'll sit down with the Russians and the Chinese and talk to them. Basically it was a vote against World War III. And so anyway, and she's a certified indictable, war criminal, and she's just awful.
Don't forget the treason part.
Yeah, I know, and Trump, he's bombastic, and he's a bit of a buffoon, and he plays the populist racist card once in a while, but at least he's not gonna march us off to war in Europe and Asia, and it's just at least I think he would try to do some business with the Chinese and the Russians. And so
you mean conduct business instead of conduct war?
Yeah, exactly.
It's been an ongoing theme with you and I.
Yeah, no kidding. And so anyways, that's who I voted for. And if Jill Stein or anybody else had been on there, I would have voted for him. But I found out in 2012 that, of course, in 2008 I voted for Obama and got suckered into that deal. And
yep.
I'm sorry, 2000, is that right? 2000.
Yeah, 2008.
Yeah, 2008. Yep. And I knew after 100 days that was a bad choice. And then in 2012, I wrote in Jill Stein on my Oklahoma ballot and found out that the Green Party candidate. And then I found out that it not only invalidates the presidential vote, but it invalidates the entire ballot. So they just throw the thing in the garbage.
Wow.
And so all the state questions, and and at least I have, at the local and state level, my voice does count for something. And so this year I went ahead and voted for Trump, so I could at least vote, on the the state questions and,
Right.
my local representative, my state representatives and stuff like that. So I refuse to have my ballot invalidated this time. But, that's the freedom of choice, we have, in America, the Oklahoma state government has decided that I get to choose between, the libertarian candidate. They would never let a green candidate or anybody to the left of Attila the Hun, be on the ballot. And so that's just kind of a sad statement, that of where we are, and America's supposed democracy. It really is a sham, and this whole thing is. And then my wife said she saw on CNN or something how much is being spent on this election.
It's
She said
unbelievable.
she said it was like 20 or 30 billion. It's just like, I couldn't believe, the last one was 8 billion. I mean, it's just like it's just nuts, absolutely nuts. So we'll see what happens. I personally think that first off, it's the Electoral College, and it's not even a popular vote. And then
Right.
I really think that even your vote and my vote, whatever, don't really count. I really think that that it's decided above us, and maybe the deep state has decided that they're a little bit scared of Clinton. I don't know, maybe but I think they're just worried that but at the same time, Trump said he wants to increase the defense budget, which is of course the last thing we need. But so maybe he'll pacify enough, the CIA / military industrial, complex, part that controls the government, and maybe he'll appease them enough that, that they'll let him get elected. But anyway, it's going to be very, very interesting. It's going to be a rock and rolling, rollicking fun week, I'm sure, as the results are decided.
I'm interested to see how this evening plays out, and I was curious, Jeff, what you're hearing on the ground over there as far as Chinese nationals, or if the government is saying anything, or because
Well,
there hasn't been a peep that I've heard out of Xi Jinping, not a
well,
word.
yeah, it's hard to imagine in the West, Rory, that there's actually countries like China who scrupulously respect the UN Charter to not meddle in the internal affairs of other countries. Now
There's a novel idea.
That's a novel idea. Yeah, actually respecting the United Nations Charter. Golly. Now that of course that does not include hacking. Of course, the Chinese are hacking just as much as everybody else is hacking.
Yeah.
Computers and trade secrets and stuff. But just in the general affairs of, you want to be communist, be communist. You want to be ultra right wing, be ultra right wing. You want to be, middle of the road, be middle of the road. And so they would never say anything like that. But interesting, so that the government, has no, there's been a few editorials in the newspapers, and they're saying, we can work with either one, but they would say that anyway. I mean, even if it was Attila the Hun, versus, a fascist dictator, they would still say that. And so that's just their nature. However, what's really interesting is there have been some articles about Chinese immigrants in the United States who have been naturalized into American citizens, and how they are now sort of coming out of the closet and are coming out of the political closet and are for Trump. So there's been an article or two about Asians who are Trump fans. And then just last night or the night before last, right on the eve of the election, they did a big national poll, and Trump is much, much more popular among the Chinese people than Clinton. But I mean, of course he would be. he has
Yes.
said, he has publicly gone on record, I will sit down with Xi Jinping. I will sit down with Vladimir Putin. We will cut a deal. We need to, we need jobs. We need to bring our industry back to America, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Now he says it in a typical bombastic, buffoonish, populist, way, and everybody knows, that Clinton is a indictable, war criminal, and
Yes.
what she did in Libya and what her husband did in Serbia and what's going on in the Middle East and all the stuff that she said in these emails, basically telling what you and I know and your listeners know, that ISIS is and Al Nusra are U.S. Army proxy armies in Syria.
Mercenaries. Let's call them what they are. They're mercenaries.
Mercenaries. Paid for via Qatar and Saudi Arabia, and so the Chinese actually would prefer Trump. Not that it makes one whit of difference, but no, you would never hear Xi or Premier Li Keqiang. You would never hear the National People's Congress. Nobody over here in a legal or governmental capacity would ever say anything. I don't even think Jack Ma, Alibaba, Taobao, Robin Li, Baidu, the billionaires, Wang Jianli. I don't think these guys would ever say anything. They're just respectful of the fact that Americans should be Americans and Chinese should be Chinese, and as far as how they operate their lives and their governments, and on a day-to-day
internal
basis.
Business.
Yeah, internal business. Yeah.
See, I mean, and that's the thing about Trump is that while he is bombastic and rather buffoonish in a way when he's at the podium, rallying the troops, if you will,
Yeah,
and, speaking to the base. My guess is that it would be a completely different business conversation that he would have with other business people like Xi Jinping, like Vladimir Putin.
No,
That there's not going
absolutely.
to be this, maniac yelling and screaming and doing
Of course
pounding the
not.
table. Of course not, because that's
Yeah,
not how you conduct business.
yeah,
And
exactly.
say whatever you would like, as far as his business dealings. I don't know. I haven't looked at any of his businesses. I know that he's been very successful. That's what I know as far as his
Well,
business life is concerned. How
yeah,
he's gotten
yeah.
there, he's gotten there exactly the same way that every other billionaire has gotten there, by lying, cheating, stealing, and doing whatever he can within the limits of the law that he has pointed out time and again,
Yeah,
directly to Hillary Clinton, right to her face. These are the laws that you put into place that you didn't do anything to overturn. So, yes, I did use those laws to my advantage. Who wouldn't? I
yeah, of
mean,
course.
that's the way it works. I
Yeah,
mean,
exactly.
am I saying that that's okay? Of course not. It's not okay. I'm the one that's paying for it. I don't like
Yeah,
it.
it's your tax dollars.
That's right, and I don't like it. Is he going to change it? I don't know. Is he
Yeah,
going to take us to war? Probably not. I mean,
exactly.
he may take us to war. Somebody's gonna have to do something, because, as you know, Jeff, the United States has entirely too much debt that can never be repaid. Japan, too much debt, can never be repaid. United Kingdom, too much debt, can never be repaid. China is in better condition, still a lot of debt. Russia, a lot of debt. All of these huge economies, the major economies in the world, have massive debt that can never be repaid. And that's the bottom line. So, are they going to do a debt jubilee? No, they're not. They're not gonna say, "Well, it's okay. You can keep the house, keep the car, keep all that stuff. You can have it. It's all good. It's all good." J.P. Morgan, just suck it up. That ain't gonna happen. HSBC, suck it up. Not gonna happen.
Yeah, exactly.
So, or am I misreading that?
Well, first off, what people tend to forget is that um, China's economy is still growing 6.5% a year.
Yes, it is. But they still have a lot
And,
of debt. I mean,
and they
that's
have a lot of debt, but it's not as it. But while Japan is, well, what is it? The UK, that's 500% of GDP, and Japan is 350, and the United States is over 300, at least officially, but we know it's a lot more than that. Whereas China's is 230 or 240 or 250, and the English economy is going nowhere. The
nowhere.
Japanese economy is in deflation.
It's
The
dead.
U.S. The U.S. economy is growing 1.5% a year, whereas
I would question that, but anyway,
well,
I'm sorry.
but whatever, officially, but yet, the Chinese economy. Let me tell you, Rory, I'm over here. We moved from Beijing after 13 years, since 1990, to Shenzhen, on in the southern part of the country, and it's the city that borders Hong Kong. And this in 1980, this was a sleepy fishing village, literally a sleepy fishing and vegetable growing village of a few thousand people. And today it's 13 million,
Oh
and
my
I mean just in one generation, 13 million. It's beautiful. The infrastructure is unbelievable. We just opened 2 brand new metro lines, one just about 200 meters from where we live. I was talking to an electrical engineer from Romania who's been here for 10 years, and he said the Silicon Valley in the United States, is passé now. Over there they're doing, Batman 7 and Ninja Turtles 4, and Batman versus Superman, and Cinderella 3, and over here, he said, anybody who's anybody in the world, in drones, robots, electric cars, virtual reality,
AI.
AI, artificial intelligence. Anybody who is anybody in the world is over here in Shenzhen, China. And he says you cannot survive microchips. That's the big missing link for China right now. And is America does still dominate microchips, but they're spending billions and billions of dollars in to catch up, and they're trying to buy as many microchip companies overseas as the West will allow them. And so the debt that China that has accrued is for high-speed trains, it's for highways, it's for ports, it's for fiber optics. This year, China will have the highest per capita fiber optics in the world. They'll either surpass Japan or the United States. 80% of the 80% of the country will be connected by fiber optics by the end of this year. You just see them all over the place, running cable. In Beijing and in Shenzhen, you see these huge spools of the fiber optic cables that are they run in the sewer, in this underground under the sidewalks and everything. The St. Louis Reserve, the Federal Reserve Bank of St. Louis came out with a study a few years back saying that Chinese debt, because of the fact that the banks are public, The major infrastructure businesses are publicly owned, and that for every dollar of debt that China creates, they create $2 worth of economic activity. And there's no other country in the world that can say that. So
I want to interrupt you if you don't mind, Jeff,
go ahead.
because I think that it's important to distinguish between what, and it dovetails with what you're saying. The United States, Japan, the UK, the other major economies that have the same type of debt load that China has, they have nothing to show for it. Nothing.
Exactly.
And China, which is something that you and I have discussed on numerous occasions, China has stuff like what you were just saying. They have infrastructure. They have the solar project that we've covered extensively. They have
wind,
the new Silk Road project. I mean, and at the end of the line, when these items are fully functioning, not only will they pay for themselves, like you said, they'll generate $2, possibly even $3 worth of economic growth. And and as they are being built out, yes, it is a burden to carry that debt. However, the debt is actually generating local activity, local
national activity. Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
It's incredible. Whereas, what do we have over here? We have student debt. We have automobile debt. We have
credit card
debt. I mean, my God.
Yeah.
I mean, there's nothing that's generating anything. And then if you look at the national debt that the United States carries, what's it for? What is it producing? Nothing. Nothing.
Well, and what's really sad, you mentioned the Silk Road project. People in the West and your listeners do not realize that the magnitude of the Silk Road project, and it's not just rail lines. It is fiber optic cables. It is high tension electrical lines. It is ports. It is high speed rail. They have the Chinese have on the books 50,000 miles, 80,000 kilometers of high speed rail that they want to build from Lisbon, Portugal to Vladivostok, Russia to Singapore in Asia. It is gas lines, pipelines. It is satellite technology, a satellite communication. It is, you name it. And they literally are taking the Eurasian continent and seamlessly integrating it at all levels of the economy. The size of the project is $1.4 trillion with a T. That's about how much the United States has spent in Iraq and Afghanistan, if not more.
If not more.
And how big is this in current dollars? In current dollars, it's 11 times bigger than the Marshall Plan, the United States' post-World War II reconstruction of non-communist Europe. 11 times bigger. It dwarfs anything that any economy, any country has ever attempted in the history of the human race.
It is.
And so there was another wonderful paper by some banker in Australia, Colonials. I think maybe it was a hedge bank or an investment bank. But anyway, he wrote an article, and he was saying the same thing. The Chinese can do this because the people come first. All of this is to serve the people. And it's not, multi-million-dollar CEO packages, multi-millionaire, boards of directors, and and it's not, it's not all sucked up into, satisfying the shareholders, because and most of those shares are owned by a handful of very, very wealthy people.
Yep.
Hedge funds, etc. And so the core industries in this country, the high speed trains, the ports, the airports, the satellites, the everything that's big. Capitalism over here is vibrant, but it's at, it's most of it is at the mom and pop, small, medium enterprise level. Consumer products like telephones and Alipay and Taobao and online stuff. But most of the core industries are people owned, and because of that, this guy was just saying, the Chinese, it is working. What they are doing is working, and it's not working for Wall Street. It's working for the people of China. But what Europeans and Asians are realizing, it's also working for them. And it's sad to see the United States and Japan, refusing to join the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank that China created. It's sad to see the United States thumbing their noses at, everything that the Chinese are offering them in terms of trying to sit down and cooperate and build a better world. The United States is in Syria, proxy Yemen, with the Saudis. They're in, Libya. They're in, Obama has 174 secret armies, roaming Africa, blowing up bridges, assassinating people, blowing up power stations, destabilizing countries. Slowly but surely, people are going to start going, you know what? I think I'd rather work with China.
Right. They're not trying to blow me up.
They're not trying to overthrow my government. They're not trying to, assassinate our president. They're not trying to pull off a phony color revolution,
right.
Like in Ukraine. They're kind of like Trump. They just want to do business. They want to trade. And so slowly but surely, and it'll take probably another generation. But here's what it's going to take. What it's going to take, Rory, is it's going to take somebody like a France. Although France has just signed a bilateral deal to plug into the Silk Road project. China is trying to buy up German companies left and right. Although the CIA literally came in and told the Germans that they could not sell this microchip company to the Chinese just about 2 weeks ago. But they're buying up German companies. And what's ironic about this, Rory, is these are publicly owned companies I'm not publicly owned, government owned corporations over here who are buying these Western corporations. And so they're turning them into, people owned companies. Really hilarious. And so,
instead of Wall Street owned.
yeah, instead of Wall Street owned, they're turning them into red. Oh my God, here come the commies! Watch out! And
hide the kids.
That's right, hide the kids. The commies are coming. And but slowly but surely, people are just what it's going to take. It's going to take a Germany, a France, an Italy, a Spain, some country that's relatively big, a Korea. Although poor President Park, she's getting crucified locally. She may end up resigning, but someone that's just going to stand up and finally say, enough's enough. And we're tired of the Syrias, we're tired of the Yemens, we're tired of the Libyas, we're tired of the South Sudans, we're tired of the Iraqs and the Afghanistans, and that that's what it's going to take. We're tired of
of death and destruction.
The Venezuelas and
Yep.
the bogus U.S. backed coup in Brazil with Dilma Rousseff. We're tired of. It's going to take someone like that.
It could be Italy. With their
Italy,
banking
exactly.
issues that they're having right now, and they're on the verge or on the cusp of civil unrest, and and if Marine Le Pen is allowed to get a foothold, a serious foothold in France, then you could have France and Italy, bailing.
Yeah, ironically, one from the left, Italy, and one from the right, France. But it's just everybody, anybody that is just against the status quo. The prevailing narrative. It's just Marie Le Pen. She's very interesting. She's a very intelligent lady. Her father is a bit of a buffoonish, bombastic, race baiting. Although he did say, he did come out and say that Charlie Hebdo was a false flag, and of course they immediately locked him up.
Well, yeah, can't have that.
I can't tell the truth about false flags, and then his house mysteriously caught on fire and burned down, and
I'm surprised his family wasn't in it.
Yeah. Luckily, they let him live, but she, she's very. If Marie Le Pen was elected president, France would pull out of NATO. The next day. She is very anti-American, very anti-NATO, very anti. What's going on in the Middle East. She does come out and say. These million refugees are the fault of the United States and NATO. So that would be a good thing. She would deglobalize, the globalization. But she's not president yet. So, if she does become president, and who knows, if Trump becomes president, maybe she will too. So we'll see what happens. A lot of interesting stuff's going on, and lurking in the background, is China, and they are there. There was, they have invested billions in Greece, while the U.S., the Rothschilds and the Morgans and the Stanleys and all the oil bankers are raping and sodomizing Greece and turning it into a hellhole. China bought the port of Piraeus, and as part of their Silk Road project, they've done a lot of investing in Greece, and there's a lot of speculation that the reason that Europe did not join the United States and has been very, very silent about the bogus case that the United States paid $30 million for, bought off the Filipinos with $30 million for that bogus, case against China in The Hague. For the South China Sea. And of course, now we have one of the most amazing leaders in the world, Rodrigo Duterte in the Philippines, who is just lacerating America and, just calling them genocidal and imperial. And it's probably censored in the West, but he is shouting to the world that the American emperor wears no clothes. He wants to kick out the American. Well, he already has kicked out the special forces out of Mindanao, his home state, his home island, the southern island in the Philippines. He wants to remove all of the 8 bases that where the Americans are. So a lot of really encouraging stuff is going on, and if and who knows, Rory, maybe Trump will get elected, and but it won't be decided by the people. It will be decided by the people who run and control America. And maybe they'll take a chance on him. I'm just worried that if he does get in, they'll kill him like they did Kennedy and there was a really interesting. I should send you the link. There was a really interesting article that a friend of mine, Godfrey Roberts, sent me, where Obama was at a fundraising dinner. This was like 2013, maybe something like that. He was at a fundraising dinner, and these wealthy patrons were rounding on him. You made all these promises. You said you were going to do this. You said you were going to do that, and you didn't do it. And he snapped back, and he said, "You remember what happened to Martin Luther King Jr., don't you?"
Oh my goodness!
And so that's the first president, at least who admitted privately to a group of people, and apparently 2 people have confirmed who were at the dinner, confirmed that he said that. And of course, everybody knows that J. Edgar Hoover and the CIA and the Department of Defense, they all conspired to kill King. William Pepper's new book, the plot to kill King. I can't wait to buy it. William Pepper's new book, but I heard his interview with Kevin Barrett, and it was so. Here's the first president to ever admit that they really don't have any freedom. I mean, they basically are under. They basically literally have the CIA's gun to their head, and are hemmed in by and limited by the fact that they know what happened to JFK. They know what happened to Robert F. Kennedy. They know what happened to Martin Luther King. Who knows? Maybe the Hinckley trying to shoot Reagan, was an attempt to get rid of Reagan because he pissed off a lot of powerful people.
Yes, he did.
And so
McKinley. Go ahead.
Yeah. Anyway, McKinley was shot. Rutherford died. There was an assassination attempt on Andrew Jackson. Who else has been? Lincoln was shot. These were all big anti big bank, anti elitists, and so anyway, that I'll send you the link to that.
Please.
Little short article. The website's called Mondo Weiss, I think, but we all know that. I mean, we all instinctively know that these leaders are scared to death, literally scared for their lives. And so, but at least Obama had the courage to a small group of patrons, to supporters, to admit that. So I'm just afraid that if Trump does get elected, that if he tries to cut a deal with the Russians and the Chinese, that the CIA and the Defense Department, and all the people that are getting rich off of the status quo, or I'm just worried they'll kill him.
If he is going to avoid what you just described, he's going to have to, quote, drain the swamp on day one. I mean, he's going to have to get in there, and on January 20th, as soon as he says, I accept the nomination, with his hand on the Bible, as soon as his hand comes off the Bible, he needs to grab the microphone and say, "You're all fired. Everybody,
yeah, exactly."
Get out.
Well, kind of like what Erdogan did after the U.S. Coup attempt. Military, junta that the U.S. backed in Turkey. What was it, 2 months ago or 3 months ago? And he's fired like 20,000 generals and colonels, and
yep.
I mean he's cleaning. He is draining the swamp.
I mean that's what I've said. I'm not sure if I've said it publicly, but I know I've said it privately. Is that the only way that Trump will have a chance of correcting or resetting the table is by literally walking down the hallway of the White House and firing everybody in every back office and throwing
Yeah.
them out, having the
Yeah.
military
Exactly.
there with him to clean their desk out and throw them out, get their
Hmm.
passwords, get everything. You don't take anything. You leave, and that's it. And then walk over to the Pentagon and do the exact same thing. And then walk
Hmm.
over to the Congress, walk over to the House and do the exact same thing. Department of
Department of
Justice,
State. Department
everybody,
of State. Department of State.
all of them. I mean, that's the only
Yeah.
way. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's not going to work. I mean,
There's so
and
many entrenched interests in the deep state and the CIA, and it's
they're like
just,
ticks. They're
yeah, they
embedded.
are
They're embedded, and you got to dig them out. Oh my God,
unbelievable.
I hate them. But well, it is an interesting day, and I'm really grateful to be able to speak with you today, Jeff, because it's an historic day. I mean, and we'll see how it plays out. I mean, it would be interesting to see if Trump wins the popular vote but loses the race,
Yeah,
loses the
like Gore in 2000.
exactly,
Yeah.
and see how it plays out. And I think that not only will today be interesting, but I think that, as you pointed out at the very beginning of the show, that over the course of the next few weeks, things have the potential to be very interesting.
Well, if Clinton wins, everybody better start stocking up on crackers and water because we're going to war.
Pretty much.
So yeah, and it'll be with China and Russia, and that they are not Grenada, they're not Panama, they're not Afghanistan and Iraq. Russia and, and China, are serious, have serious militaries, as we've seen what the Russians have done in Syria.
Yes.
And
Well,
and
I mean,
so
and what Russia did just a couple 3 weeks ago. I mean, they and this wasn't by accident that they just happened to show their new ICBM that is capable of reaching the United States from Russia, and it is armed with a nuclear warhead. Period.
yeah,
This is a brand new weapon. This is part of our new technology. This is part of our new war machine to combat you crazies in the West. And here it is. So, Hillary, you want to threaten us some more? Here's what you're up against. I mean, that's basically what it was.
Well, Rory, let's get back together maybe before Christmas and have another chat. And
let's do.
And really enjoyed it, and can't wait to see it. Or actually, listen. You always do a nice job producing it with some visuals, and really looking forward to it. And in the meantime, happy for Thanksgiving, happy Native American Day, and happy First Nations Day.
That's pretty much it.
And so great to hear your voice, and glad we had a Shadow of Truth talk. We've been doing a bunch with Dave Kranzler, and they're wonderful. But it's nice to be a little bit nostalgic and have a one-on-one with you, and I'm looking forward to more in the future.
Well, we're going to do it again. I can assure you of that. I mean, you were one of the first people that I ever interviewed. You were in the first handful. And you're always on the list, Jeff. And I want to remind people that you did just have published your latest book, which is China Rising, Capitalist Roads and Socialist Destinations. And that was just released back in September. So
exactly.
Just about 6 or 8 weeks ago. And
it's done very well. It's been in the top 1% for books. Well, for books on China, it's getting a lot of attention because it does offer a very unique perspective on the United States and China, and I've got another one coming out in December. China is communist, damn it. And so that's going to be another kind of a nice, interesting follow up. So yeah, maybe we can do an interview when China's communist damn it comes out, and we can kind of follow up and assess what happened with the elections today.
Sounds good to me. And I'll put a link to China Rising in the description below the video, so everybody
Thank
can
you very much,
take a look
Rory.
at that. And go and support Jeff and get his new book. I can assure you, it's a very interesting read. So,
Thank you very much, Rory.
You're welcome. And we've been speaking with Mr. Jeff J. Brown, and you can find all of Jeff's work over at chinarising.puntopress.com. Jeff, it's always a pleasure, and I look forward to speaking with you in the future.
Bye bye, Rory.